What if the real threat is surveillance? But not the obvious kind, not spies in trenches or secret agents in shadows. He imagined something much quieter, much larger, much more invasive. A system so advanced, so deeply woven into the fabric of everyday life, that people wouldn't even realize they were being monitored. And here's the twist. The world he imagined wasn't meant to be a prediction. It was meant to be a warning. A warning that, just like Bradbury's, the world chose to ignore. But looking at the digital age we live in now, our devices, our data, our always-on connections, you have to ask yourself, was it really just fiction? Because the vision this writer left behind feels less like a story and more like a blueprint. A blueprint for a world that looks hauntingly familiar. And once you hear what he predicted, how specific, how precise, how eerily accurate, you'll understand why his warning might be the most important one of all.
George Orwell didn't just imagine a future controlled by surveillance. He dissected it, piece by piece, layer by layer, like a man who'd glimpsed something humanity wasn't supposed to see yet. And what makes his warning so disturbing isn't just the accuracy, it's the method behind it. Because Orwell didn't describe a world where people were forced into obedience. He described a world where people were conditioned into it, slowly and subtly, silently. And that single idea, that control doesn't need chains, it only needs information, was decades ahead of its time. In Orwell's vision, surveillance isn't just a tool, it's a presence, an atmosphere, a constant, invisible pressure that shapes every action, every word, every thought. He imagined cameras watching not just crowds, but individuals, tracking their faces, analyzing their behavior, studying their patterns. He imagined microphones listening for tone, emotion, hesitation, searching for signs of disobedience. He imagined screens that weren't simply for broadcasting information, but for extracting it. Screens that looked back. And remember, this was written in the 1940s. Computers barely existed. The internet wasn't even a dream. Cameras were bulky, primitive machines. And yet, he described a system that looks astonishingly familiar today. But the most haunting part? He didn't place this surveillance in secret rooms or intelligence bunkers. He placed it in homes, in workplaces, in public squares, everywhere. Because the ultimate form of control doesn't hide. It normalizes itself. Now think about the world we live in. Our phones, our apps, our smart devices. Every step tracked, every search recorded, every location pinned. Not by a single government, but by countless systems, both public and private, collecting everything we do. Exactly what Orwell hinted at, but on a scale even he couldn't have predicted. But here's where his imagination takes a darker turn. In his world, surveillance isn't just about watching the body, it's about shaping the mind. He described how constant monitoring changes behavior, how people begin to censor their own thoughts, how they learn to smile when they're afraid, to nod when they disagree, to blend in when they want to run. Because when you know you're being watched, you don't need to be forced to obey. You obey yourself. Researchers now call this the chilling effect. Orwell described it decades before psychology even gave it a name. He understood that surveillance doesn't just collect data, it changes people. And this is where the real twist begins. Orwell didn't imagine cameras as passive observers. He imagined them as analytical tools, devices that didn't just record what you did, but tried to interpret why you did it. A raised eyebrow, a moment of hesitation, a whisper, a sigh. Anything could be suspicious. Anything could be a clue. Anything could be a threat. Sound impossible? Today, algorithms do exactly that. Facial recognition, emotion detection, behavior prediction, systems that analyze us not as individuals, but as data streams. And the craziest part? Most of the time, we're the ones feeding these systems. We unlock our phones with our faces, we talk to smart assistants, we upload our photos, our routines, our preferences, voluntarily. Not because someone forces us, but because it's convenient. And Orwell predicted that too. In his world, people don't rise up against the surveillance system. They adapt to it. They get used to it. Eventually, they depend on it. They trade privacy for safety, independence for comfort, freedom for ease. Does that sound familiar? It should. But what really makes Orwell's vision prophetic is how he understood the machinery behind power. How surveillance, once implemented, doesn't stay neutral. It grows, it spreads, it intertwines itself with politics, with media, with culture, until people can no longer tell where it begins and where it ends. He imagined a society where the truth is controlled not by facts, but by whoever holds the information. And today, that idea is no longer fiction. It's a debate, a fear, a reality we're navigating in real time. But here's the most chilling part of Orwell's warning, the part people rarely talk about. He didn't present surveillance as a technological problem. He presented it as a human one. Because his question wasn't, what if cameras become powerful? It was, what if people stop caring that they're being watched? And that is the question that keeps his warning alive. Everything Orwell described, the cameras, the data, the monitoring, the psychological pressure, was meant to shock readers, to terrify them, to wake them up. But decades later, we barely notice it. It's in our pockets, our homes, our routines, our habits. It's invisible because it became normal, exactly as he feared. And once again, we face the same haunting realization we had with Bradbury. If Orwell saw all of this coming, if he predicted the digital age with such frightening clarity, then what else did he see? What part of his warning is unfolding right now without us noticing? Because surveillance was only one piece of the future he feared. And another writer, long before the age of drones and satellites, saw a very different kind of danger approaching. Another technology that would reshape the world, not by watching us, but by fighting our wars for us. And what he imagined was something no one expected.